Drawers here, and I am still talking trash. Yeah, that's right. Always. I will never stop. I am organizing my desk and painting a few minis along the way because this is what I do. So now that I've emptied all of the junk out of these drawers here, I'm putting minis in, kind of like how I had moved. Basically, when you have as many miniatures as I do, you do spend a lot of your time organizing, and so there you go. I am setting a few aside that I'd really like to paint today, and a few that I will probably never paint. I might even just throw these in a box. How I said I was putting together a box of minis that I never intend to use or whatever. Somebody out there might get lucky and get a bunch of clan mechs. Unless they feel like me, in which case they're going to feel like they didn't get lucky at all. They got a bunch of junk. But, whatever. This guy, I'm going to set him aside because every time I look at Cold Iron Skillet's meme with, like, the badass freaking House Merrick Warhammer, I'm all like, yeah, I got to. I have to. I feel a need to paint that Warhammer identical to what he has made. It's just too real. You know what I mean? So definitely, I do have the Yinlo Wang here. For those of you who don't know, the Yinlo Wang was a hero mech they first introduced, I think, in Mech Warrior or Battletech Online, right? And it's pretty much a Centurion, except they've stripped all the weapons off of it and then gave it like an AC-20. So, I mean, the best thing about it is the paint job. It's got a really interesting paint job where it's white, but then it's got like the Imperial Japanese flag painted over it. And I don't know why that would be, since it's got a Chinese name, Yin Lo Wang. That is Chinese. But then the mech itself is painted up like Imperial Japanese. The flag with the rays. And I've got this guy right here, Mackie. He's painted mostly. I haven't done his cockpit and stuff, but I might leave him out too while I'm putting a lot of the stuff I have no intentions of painting immediately away. So, looking forward to tomorrow night. Double D. This guy right here. It's an orange griffin, and eventually I'm going to get a Confederate battle banner transfer and a 0-1 and put on the shoulder pads. And this guy will be the General Lee. And I think I have to thank Raven for that. I think that Raven, a guy some of the new people won't remember, but he used to be around quite a bit, knows a lot about Battletech, but unfortunately has chosen the path of the communist. And I think he gave me the idea to do that. It was either Raven or Bear. I mean, In hindsight, Bear gave me a lot of good ideas. I wish he hadn't flounced stuff, you know, because, yeah, I did enjoy. I say this all the time, but yeah, I enjoyed having Bear on here. You know, our little Bear Shadow and James shows were some of the most fun I had. And here's hoping one day he'll, come around and stop being, I don't know, whatever the hell it is he's being. I don't even know what it is. This is a good mech. And this is actually usable early on. The Punisher or Pillager. The Pillager. This is a beast right here. Oh wait. I'm sitting here talking. Somebody's trying to talk to me and I ain't even got the chat open. Sorry. Oh, it's Tim. Tim, what is up, bro? Hold on. Let me straighten out some stuff here, man. I don't even know where is my mind, right? Where is my mind? Where is my mind? God, where is my mind? Yeah, there we go. That way, if Timmy wants to jump in, Timmy can definitely do so. That's you know, what. Yeah, and there he is. Now we'll get to hear about Timmy's latest games, maybe.
Hey.
Hey,
Oh boy, things have been a little bit crazy today.
uh,
Moving things around, getting things cleaned up.
same thing here, man. I have a
Oh boy.
dream that one day my desk will not be embarrassing to look at. So I've just been,
Well, here's the good news for yesterday's game.
let's hear it. I love
We
good.
found the tower we were looking for. That one that had they had opens.
Okay,
Killed two water elementals, and our dwarf friend got himself a +2 broadsword now.
that's good.
He's a little bit happier now that he has a magical weapon that he can use.
Yeah,
He
that's
was looking at, yeah, he was looking in this pool, seeing this broadsword in the water, and was like, and his heart was just filled with avarice.
avarice. Well, I mean, he is
Yeah,
a dwarf, so that actually kind of makes sense, right?
yeah.
It's like,
Well,
yeah,
we killed one. The other one got feared by a horn that the dwarf had, and then since it was in the water, we couldn't really attack it very well until I used a spell called Lower Water. Yeah,
yeah, that's pretty smart.
yeah. I have two Lower Water scrolls, so I used one of them.
Well, it worked out.
Yeah, we got a lot of good loot from that too, because we got like two magical swords, another long sword. So there was that, and the broadsword that the dwarf wanted. A few potions, a bunch of gems, really expensive, good gems. Some cool stuff. Then there we got to go upstairs. There was a new puzzle that we had to deal with opening the middle door because in this building it was a little bit odd. It's like a big open room at the very bottom with four staircases going up and a pool in the middle. Which the water will be back after a little bit. My lower water doesn't permanently lower the water; it just magically lowers it for a little bit.
Well, it lowered it long enough for you to do what you needed to do, though.
Yeah.
So that's
Um. Yeah. Then the second floor had the staircases that ended there, and then a room in the middle and then the outer part. The
Hmm.
room in the middle had 4 doors on it with runes etched in it. And what we had to do was actually take the name of the owner, I guess, of the tower, and move it to the center of the circle, and it opened up whenever each person did it at the same time. You couldn't do it individually; it had to be all at the same time, or the door would hurt you.
Hmm.
Inside that was the a staircase going up in the middle, and like 4 gargoyles, and up a little bit, like up 10 feet off the ground. And do you know what's going to happen? 2 of
Uh,
them's going to come to life and attack you.
only two.
Yeah, the other 2 were just statues.
That's an interesting play to kind of keep it
Yeah.
where you don't know.
Yeah, we killed the 2 gargoyles pretty easily, actually. Well, pretty easily, sort of. I almost died to my my companion shooting me in the back.
Hmm.
Because if anything's gonna happen, it's me getting shot in the back by
Well,
an ally.
that does happen. I just recently picked up some more gargoyles from Reaper. I don't know when they'll be here, but I thought I'd ordered 4, and apparently I'd only ordered 1. And gargoyles are one of those creatures that generally you want a couple. And the
Yeah.
new gargoyles they've put out, they're really cool. I like them. So,
Funny thing is, we fought gargoyles before that too. Before we got into this new tower, we went to an older tower, slept a little bit, and 6 gargoyles came into the room, like barged into the room that we were sleeping in, and attacked us. I kind of clung to the ceiling, waiting for them to come through so I could jump down and attack them.
well, I mean, you remember when I was telling you about how I want to make my list of wandering monsters and I've got like some
Yeah,
prerequisites to it? Gargoyles
yeah,
meet a lot of the prerequisites because they fly.
yep.
So that means they can travel great distances. And,
Hey, Steve, and hey, GM Cody.
right. Hey, GM Cody, how you doing, brother? And Steve. I mentioned you in the video the other day, Steven. But yeah, so if you're outdoors or maybe even indoors, gargoyles make excellent, believable wandering monsters because they travel. They hunt. They might hide out during the day or whatever and pretend to be gargoyles on some sort of building or other, but eventually, you know, I kind of like the idea of gargoyles being actual stone during the day.
I do too, but that might be because of that cartoon about gargoyles.
It could be. A long time ago, there was actually like a supposedly scary movie about gargoyles, and they
I
were
wouldn't
like,
be surprised. There's a lot of goofy horror movies.
yeah, it was like a goofy horror movie, and the gargoyles were like, coming up out of the cave system or something somewhere and, kidnapping people and doing whatever. It's one of those movies I saw on like Channel 44,
I remember
or
one
horror
about.
movies at noon or something, it's like,
Yeah, I
whatever.
remember a horror movie about a leprechaun who killed people and made terrible puns.
Yeah, that was actually the same guy who played the Ewok.
Yeah,
What's his name? He's been a lot. He played Willow. Uh, yeah, he was that stupid leprechaun, and they must have made like 20 of them, including one called Leprechaun in the Hood.
yeah. That was kind of funny.
So, whatever. Um, so yeah, definitely gargoyles have to be on my list. Hanging out at the bar for your afternoon pre-walk beer. Well, there you go.
Well, James, I'm just happy it was gargoyles and not cloakers again. Because it's usually cloakers for our team. The DM's been rolling up cloakers almost every time.
I think Bubba just likes cloakers, man.
He says he rolls them up randomly, and it just constantly comes up as cloakers.
Yeah, but he also gets to make the Wandering Monster list for all you know.
Yeah, he hasn't actually made his own list. He's been wanting to, and then keeps forgetting to.
I'm just saying, for all you know, the list says Cloaker all the way.
Cloaker, except for this one time where it's gargoyles.
Just got done watching the video. Super neat. Well, I'm glad you think it was super neat since it was 100% just based on stuff you and I were kind of brainstorming the other day. I was thinking what I'm going to do at some point is actually drag out the adventures we kind of mentioned. I have them and like go through the adventure, not on a live stream, but an actual video and explain exactly which parts I would change. And then I'll get the next one. I'll probably start with Isle of Dread and I'll move to the Lost City. And then I'll move to the Forbidden City or whichever one's in the jungle and just go down the list of these old basic or AD&D modules that and explain how exactly I would convert them to Hyperborea. I mean,
It is certainly doable. I mean,
the ones we already were talking about may as well have been Hyperborean or Hyperborean adventures. I mean,
yeah.
An island full of dinosaurs? Come on. I mean, that's Conan all day,
Yeah.
And then the other one, a lost city full of like degenerate humans that are worshiping weird gods and doing stupid shit. I mean, I'm pretty sure there is a Conan story that is literally that. So a lot of it's not even stuff that would be hard or take a lot of creativity. It's just a matter of laying out how you would do it. And that's what I'm talking about with that. But
I was just going to say, somebody did adapt the Pool of Radiance to RuneQuest, so I could see it being done in Hyperborea too.
Well, the Pool of Radiance adventure event, which was called something of adventure, that could be adapted to literally anything.
True.
I mean, it could be adapted to Hyperborea. It could be adapted to any setting and pretty much any fantasy game. The premise is just that there's this city that was overrun by evil humanoids, and would you please come and help liberate the city? I mean, okay, how does it get any easier than that? You know what I mean?
True.
And the answer, my good friend, is it doesn't really get much easier than that. Like you can pick any unmarked. You can look at the Hyperborean atlas, let's say. Pick any unnamed city location on that atlas, and as long as it's near like water, you could say, "Yep, this is where Flan is," and then you might have to change up a few of, all the humanoids except for the orcs. You'd have to get rid of. They don't exist in Hyperborea. And the dragon you would have to get rid of as well. But everything else, you're dead on. So instead of goblins, you would have to replace that with something that actually does dwell in Hyperborea. And there's a lot of stuff, that, Yeah, absolutely, GM Cody, because by the time you actually get through the adventure and you've liberated the city, you're probably, at least middling level. And at that point, it's time to start journeying around the lands around the city.
Yep.
You know, and if you're in Forgotten Realm, well, Zintel Keep is not that far north.
No, we've been there.
Right. And if you set it somewhere else, well, then you can just set whatever you want, wherever you want, right? But yeah, and if I were to set it in Hyperborea, I'd find a place where it's near the sea, and then I mean, there's all kinds of monsters you could throw in instead of the typical ones. You know, like
I know.
you could have like tons of undead. You could have all kinds of other weird shit. You could do one of the instead of having goblins in that first area, you could just have like cultists. Uh, you're absolutely right, Dakota. That's why I said you'd have to ditch all the humanoids except for the orcs. The orcs are the offspring of the devil swine or demon pigs or whatever, and Pictish tribesmen that were willing to. Well, were they willing? I don't know, because one of the big things about devil swine, even from basic D&D days, is they have like this tremendously powerful charm magic that they can do. And how are you, Ducato? Um, so the orcs can stay, but that would also mean you'd want to put the location somewhere on the right side of the continent, since you'd want it to be near Orcrist and where the orcs are actually more common. But you could definitely have orcs there. You might even have the orcs being led by one of those demon pigs. But the goblins and the hobgoblins, I mean, if you're lazy with the hobgoblins, you could just put in more orcs, more orc. Goblins, there's a lot of little critters you could throw in there. Instead of bandits, I would make them cultists, just because that's way more within the kind of the scope of the game. So that one building, where you go in and you fight all the bandits, yeah, I'd make a bunch of cultists. I might even make them cultists that are somehow in service to or affiliated with the undead. Played some Hyperborea Saturday at OSRCon with. Oh, you played with the creator. Well, lucky you, man. Lucky you. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I've been running. I don't know when the last time we talked, Ducato, but I've actually been running the third printing Hyperborea. Um, Probably over 6 months now. Like a lot of the players are about level 5. The Berserker, I think, is still stuck at level 4 because of how slow they level. And my group is weird. It's like it's made up of like one or two of the really slow leveling classes, and then everyone else is playing like a thief or a cleric, and they're really fast, So yeah, but we've had some good times. They are currently, and I'm going to assume you know a little bit about the region. They're currently in the city of Zambala, and they're putting an end to the cannibal cult that's up there. Um, However, I did change some things to make it a lot more like a story I remember from Savage Sword, where some of the tavern keepers are actually working with the cultists by having some of the tavern rooms have secret doors that the cultists can get in. And in the middle of the night, the cultists will go into those secret rooms through the secret doors into the rooms and they'll kidnap travelers. They never actually eat the citizens of the city, they only eat the travelers. And because of that, the law being what it is in that city, no one really gives a shit because, they don't really give a shit about travelers so much. It's like, and the way I set it up, there's like a whole economy where the cannibals go into the room and kidnap the travelers. Then they fence all of the travelers' equipment off, to the local fences. And then they take what money they get from the fences and they pay off the tavern keepers. And then it just goes in a big merry-go-round from there. And yeah. And plus, Zambala is a very split society where, like, the merchants, the mages, the actual people who run everything are like Ixian. So they're like Scythians, basically. And all of the slaves, for the most part, the majority of the slaves are Eskimo. And in the actual adventure, as Jeff Talanian or whoever wrote it, they were Cthulhu cultists. In my adventure, I changed them to be cultists of Yag or Yag, because Yag is the god of cannibals. And, not saying that Cthulhu might not have some weird cults that eat people, but Yag, that's definitely just a whole part of his deal, right? And the thing is even though a lot of the slaves of the city might be members of the cult or know about it, the effete, pompous, silk-wearing rulers of the city, as long as none of their people get ate and the slaves do their daily, duties, they pretty much ignore it. Because that's just the way the city is. It's an incredibly corrupt city where the rulers don't give a shit about anyone but their own little caste group of people, right? So, yeah. Yep. So, and after the players leave there, they're probably going to catch a ship back to Comorum and figure out what in the hell they're going to do down there. So I'm thinking if they go to Comorum, I'm going to put them through the Mystery at Port Greeley adventure. But now that Stephen and I were talking about all the other things we could do, maybe on their way back to Comorum, their ship gets blown way off course and damaged and effed up really bad. And they find themselves landing on this dreadful isle that's, populated with dinosaurs and prehistoric monsters and whatever. And I think at the last time we talked, we had both kind of agreed that the people living on the island on the safe side of the wall should probably be like Zulu or something like that. Kind of like how I was thinking the people in the lost city should be like Egyptians, and then you can either have them worshiping one or the other of the great old ones or Egyptian gods. Either way it would work, So, but I keep telling people, on my live streams, I've said it multiple times that the strongest thing about Hyperborea as a role playing setting compared to a lot of other settings, I mean, one, the rules are good. So I don't want to spend a lot of time just talking about how good the rules are. They're good. But the setting is what really shines because you can literally just do about anything, and no one can question you or talk any smack about it, or it's like everything fits within this setting. And there's a lot to be said for that, just the fact that you can put anything in there. But see, one day I hope to have a whole, like, to be able to log on and have a bunch of people drop in. And by a bunch, I mean 5 or 6, 7 people. And we can just all bullshit around about whatever, we've done in our Hyperborean game. You know, I think that would be, a lot of fun. I would enjoy that a lot.
Well, don't worry, James. I'll eventually be able to play Hyperborea.
You will, because Bloodworth is eventually going to run it again. Give it a try. And as long as you're in the group, he just needs a couple more solid players and they'll be set.
Yep, I might go the route that Hungar did and play a cleric.
I am telling you what, the basic cleric, because you might be tempted, let's say, to want to play a subtype cleric. The basic cleric is way better than it should ever have a right of being.
Maybe, but I might even still go with the subtype if I have a good idea for it.
Yeah, well, you can do that, and I'm telling you right now, you will be failing at life.
Is it that bad? Is it just unplayable for the other
No,
clerics?
no, 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 not at all. Not at all. This is my power gamer, James, talking to you.
Ah,
There's not a single cleric subclass that is anywhere near the basic cleric.
see, and you were shaming me for power gaming a little bit.
Well, I didn't know the basic cleric was so good. I actually thought like maybe the shaman or the druid or something might be good, right? That basic cleric. I mean, the selection of weapons they get, the armor, the shields, and then all the spells, nuts. It's just insane. And it's a class that, yeah, you want your first attribute to be wisdom, obviously, because you want all the bonus spells you can get, right?
Yeah.
But the second one is kind of a hard decision because it's like, okay, do you want to put it in strength and maybe just be a straight up front line trying to bash things heads in with a great hammer?
That'd probably
Or
be
do
me.
you put it in con and get all the hit points and become a tank that can heal? There's a lot of, I'm just saying, there's a lot of choices.
I couldn't do another tanky healer. I'm done with that.
Or you could, in theory, put it in dex and then when you hit level 4, pick up longbow as a weapon proficiency and just be a cleric that hangs out in the back, whipping arrows down range. Yes, Delanian did. Well, I thought you and I came up with that idea together, Stephen. Delanian did a great job on the classes, and it's funny when I hear other OSR people talk about Hyperborea, and one of the things they mention is there's like a million subclasses. It's like, no, there's like 20, but they make sense in context with the world they are in. It's like you can play a ranger or you can play a thief. That's a ranger and called a scout. So do you want to be a ranger that's fighter or thief based? There's a lot of stuff like that. Now, when it comes to wizards, I'm going to tell you this too, buddy. I think the standard magician is probably the best magician. They have access to the widest amount of spells, right? But The Witch is good. The Necro is good. I'm not a fan of the Pyro or Cryomancers in general, but the one in my group, the Cryomancer, he does a hell of a job, doing his thing. So, uh, the Illusionist. So pretty much, I guess what I'm telling you, Timmy, is every class is good, but you'll definitely notice that some classes are just a little bit.
A bit better, yeah. It happens.
Yeah, the Barbarian is awesome. My wife actually plays a Norse
Oof.
berserker who worships Thor. So everywhere she goes, she's like this big blonde Dane. She's a Dane, which is like
Okay.
real life, but she's not 5'1". She's like 6 foot tall and covered in like, knot work tattoos, and keeps her hair braided back and carries a two-handed axe.
Yeah,
I
no.
mean,
You know what? Never mind. Barbarian. I want to play a barbarian in Hyperborea.
well, if you get the attributes to do it, I say you jump on it with both feet. The barbarian is kind of the barbarian ends up getting some thief, some ranger abilities. They're good at fighting. They get bonuses to like all their saving throws, and they get like a die 10 hit die. So it's just a class that is designed to represent, a character from culture where literally you just lived out in the wilderness and figured it out. Uh, you know,
Dang it.
like my wife's
Yeah.
character cannot use ranged weapons. There's no rule saying she can't use ranged weapons. Just under the character description, it says they don't use ranged weapons. So it's not like it says they may never use it. It just says they won't. And I kind of dug that. It's like, you know, because she wanted the laser pistol they found when they defeated the serpent people. The
Okay,
serpent.
okay. Maybe I have to retool this idea because actually, when I heard barbarian, I thought of just being like this big Scotsman in a kilt, just running around with like a two-handed sword.
Well, I mean, that is a barbarian.
Yeah, true.
I mean, think about it. The Scotsman you're talking about, which would be like medieval era Scotsmen, one of their deals was, they had to know how to run for miles, and they had to be able to climb cliffs and survive in the wilderness, and blah blah blah. Yeah, so that's kind of what you're talking about.
I also kind of want to be able to have the ranged weapons too, because if I
Well, I don't know if I'd have to look at the barbarian to see if the barbarian can. I said berserker,
berserker, okay,
totally different thing.
true.
Berserkers aren't necessarily barbarians. Like my wife's character, who is a berserker, grew up in Vinland, in a city, worships Thor, and berserks the fuck out in combats. Why? Because it's part of her religious practice. It's just what she does.
Mm,
So for her, the berserking is a religious thing. You see what
okay,
I mean?
yeah.
Because she worships Thor and all that. And so before a big battle, she'll chew on the edge of her shield, foam at the mouth, and run across the battlefield wearing nothing but a bear skin or a wolf skin hide and her two-handed sword. As a result, she does get a bonus to her armor class whenever she is not actually wearing armor. And so that's it.
Because with Hyperborea, I can't believe it, but I could do the one thing and just play the Scotsman from Samurai Jack.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, you wouldn't have the gun in your
No.
leg yet.
Uh-oh. We lost James there. Hopefully he'll come back.
In that
When she says...
connection lost.
No, come on. Maybe. No, no. Still cutting out. Dang it. Might need better internet, James.
I hate that when that happens. Yeah,
Nope, still cutting out.
I always get shouting to do it because you're to just walk the trash out. Plus, I take the
There,
dog.
you're back.
Oh, I thought I was already back. Yeah,
Nope.
but so yeah. What he's saying, yeah, when she says take the trash out, and and the other thing, which is what I was trying to explain to you, Tim, is that barbarian and berserker are entirely different things.
Okay.
Oh no, Mr. Bill. Yeah, they're entirely different things. So, like, you could play a Norse barbarian and say you come from one of the outer alleys at islands and whatever, or you could, be the Norse berserker. And the same could be said if you chose to be a Celt. You could be the Celt barbarian, or you could be a Celtic berserker. You know, Now, for some civilizations, it might not make as much sense. Like, if you wanted to be like a Roman berserker, it'd probably be like, wait, what? A Greek barbarian. Nah, that wouldn't work out because,
That wasn't in their culture.
yeah, the Greeks absolutely would not get down like that.
Nope.
But for a lot of other cultures, absolutely, a
Yeah.
Thracian barbarian or a, you know, whatever, right? I mean, you figure the most common class for the Eskimo would probably be barbarian, since they live up there in the frozen land and they just wander around with pretty much no civilization to mention, eating raw seal or whatever they do. So,
But yeah, I
yeah,
can see it being so much fun. Being a Scotsman with like a big two-handed sword and one of the laser weapons.
yeah. See, you're getting ahead of yourself, though.
I know. I can't guarantee I could get the laser weapon.
You can't guarantee you'll make it second level.
True.
Restart the can. Will that help with the connections? Do you think, Janet?
Maybe.
Yeah, Talanian's Barbarian is very Conan-ish because it's tough. It's a good fighter, but it has like all of the climbing stuff and so you could play a Hyperborean barbarian and actually be a decent thief as far as that goes. You know what I mean? The only thing you're not getting really is like backstabs and stuff, but you don't need them so much since you're actually packing heat and able to just kill shit. And I believe the barbarian also gets a bonus to XP if they're not wearing heavy armor or any armor, I should say. So, or bonus to AC. I mean, so any way you look at it, yeah. Um, I'm not sure. I don't know what Delanian's inspiration was, but whatever it was, he did a great job of it. How you doing though, Janet? I appreciate you dropping in and giving me some clues. I am just here hanging out, talking about Hyperborea, and on the DL, what you guys don't see me doing is actually painting a couple of Baltec figures, but you would be surprised because they're not mechs. They're not mechs at all. And when this is done, I will go ahead and throw a Draconis Combine logos on it and numbers. So Right now, I'm putting red ink over the ink to make it look a little bit deeper, like a little bit of a way. I'll show you what it is. I need to do the metallics, but it is a Shylone heavy fighter. I did the bottom like clouds, so if it's coming in, you know, and I'm going to put the Draconis Dragon on one wing and then
See,
some
Steve
numbers.
gets it.
Huh?
See, Steve gets it. It's Scott's Barbarian with a laser ray gun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, right now there is a guy in my campaign that has a ray gun. It's the Greek warlock because uh, when they defeated the Serpent Men, they found a Serpent Man lab deep underground and defeated them. And one of the Serpent Men had a ray gun, so they're all like super stoked about it, even though they didn't know what it was. And in game, they refer to it as the wand of. Are there non-hyperboreans? Yeah. Uh, um, 90% of the population of the world is not hyperborean. And I mean of the humans. Hyperboreans are themselves a very specific kind of people. And then, like in my group, we have a Dane who worships Thor, an Amazon who worships Thaumagosa, who is the god of bloodshed and murder, a Atlantean that worships the Ashen Worm, which is the god of like glaciers and stuff, a Greek that worships the entire Greek pantheon, a Hyperborean that worships Desagua, um, I'm forgetting someone. Oh, a Celtic scout that worships the Celtic deities. So he worships like Lu and what's his name? Starts with an N. Uh, anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll think about it and then I'll be like, oh, yeah, that guy. So in Hyperborea, all of the players are humans that have been. Well, no, Hyperborea comes from the Greek, which would mean like very fast or very strong winds, because they believe there was a continent where the Arctic Circle is now, and they believe that that continent was protected by a wall of wind that spun around it, and that the people who lived there were tall, fair complected, fair haired people who were very powerful. Like at one point, might have forced Atlantis and Lemuria to pay tributes and all this whole sort of thing. Which is why when the Greeks talk about race, they actually acknowledge three races. They acknowledge Greek, which just basically means white people, and then Mauritanians or Ethiopians, which just means black people, and then the blonde haired people from the north, which they literally thought were possibly the Hyperboreans. Um, Now, in the game system, and I understand you're probably trying to make a joke, and I'm being serious. In the game system, at some point in the past, um, the Great Old Ones, or a Great Old One, I'm thinking Thesagua, ripped the continent of Hyperborea off of the planet Earth and set it in orbit around Saturn. And, put these pillars at the corners of it. The six corners of these pillars are like giant magical obelisks that actually keep the atmosphere in and everything because it's flat. And then throughout time, starting, tens of thousands of
Oh,
years ago,
I think I gotta go. Time to eat. See ya.
then from the beginning of time, as different civilizations collapsed or were destroyed on Earth, a lot of those civilizations were shunted through time and space to Hyperborea. And in the current age of Hyperborea, which like where my player characters are actually playing, they can see Sol, our sun, except it's a gigantic red giant. So figure it's maybe billions of years in the future. Yep, the Sagwa lives. That's what the hat says. I know you're teasing with me, Janet, and my autistic side is answering you as if you're not. Because the thing you have to understand, Janet, my dear, is I take my Hyperborean lore very seriously over here. So, anyway, and at the center, of course, of Hyperborea is Mount Vermithoan, which is where a lot of the great old ones actually dwell, but deep underneath. And another mystery is how thick is Hyperborea? It's thick enough that there's like a whole underdark Hyperborea under there, and some of the actual supposed gods dwell under there, including the Sagwa, but Thermagoa lives under there too, protected by 5 demon lords and all that sort of thing. I was thinking about this actually, and this is a weird thing to think about. So all of my D&D bros, tell me if I'm being super weird or not. AD&D kind of does this thing where they introduced, whether you like it or not, Underborea, where they've introduced these real world demons. Whether you believe in the Bible or not, these are demons that exist in various Abrahamic religions or whatever, right? Hyperborea didn't. You know what I mean? Like on the cover of the monster manual, that's an actual idol of Moloch, is what that is. Uh, and as you all know, Moloch is kind of a big player in Old Testament, religion. Um, in Hyperborea, you're more worried about Cthulhu. It's like none of the actual beings from real world stuff. I guess you could say Dagon, but it's not the Dagon that we think of from like Babylonian mythology. It's just a super big, powerful, deep one, right? And it serves Cthulhu, who, as we all know, him and his star spawn seeped out of space onto the Earth billions of years ago. So it's kind of weird in a way. If you were the kind of person that was like, "Oh my God, D&D super, satanic because of this, that, or other," say you were a satanic panic person, which hopefully none of you are, Hyperborea would actually fix that issue because there's nothing in Hyperborea that you could say, "See, Asmodeus," or whoever. I mean, it's just not a thing. It's all fantastical creatures made up by Clark Ashton Smith, R.E. Howard, and Lovecraft for the most part. Um, that thought struck my thinking meat or fat, actually, when me and Shadow were talking about, evil and this, that, and other in role playing games. And I was like, well, I mean, you know, I forget what we were talking about, but basically the long and short of it was, I was like, D&D, a lot of people could argue, has issues because of its, preponderance. And no, I'm not one of those people that wants them to be called Beta Zoo or whatever. But I am just pointing out that a lot of that issue just doesn't exist in Hyperborea. Because when you look at the list of gods in Hyperborea, you know for a fact that none of these deities are affiliated with any major world religion. Um, and for the most part, unless you want to worry about the Greek gods, which do exist in Hyperborea, as do the Norse gods, um, yeah, for the most part, they're the inventions of these great writers. Now, were they based on other things? I don't know. You'd have to go over and talk to uh, a guy I actually like, Venger Satanis, and he could explain to you how H.P. Lovecraft was actually a super like sensitive psychic person, and what he thought he was writing down, what that was fiction, was actually nonfiction because it was being sent to him by these beings that actually do exist. Um, and if that's what you want to believe, then knock yourself out. But the point I'm making, though, is any of the beings mentioned in any of holy scripts don't exist in Hyperborea. That's all. That's all I'm trying to say, without making it weird for anyone. And Stephen, the way I think of Underborea is almost like the Dreamlands. Stephen, I agree. And I tell people that I talk to who prefer AD&D, like when I'm on Shadow's show, and I'll be like, okay. And for Shadow, the reason he prefers AD&D, I think for the most part, hey, Hungar, my brother, I think Shadow's deal is mostly he plays with elves and he likes that kind of fantasy, right? Nothing wrong with it. If that's the kind of fantasy you want, then, there's a game out there for all of us. Play the kind of fantasy you want. Whereas I prefer this, as they call it, the weird tales, sword and sandals kind of fantasy. And so does my group. Speaking of, one of the people in chat just now is in my group, and I'm going to have words with him, but they're in game. So he can't be mad at me because the words I'm going to have with him are in game. But yeah, I mean, when I was going through my, I want to play Elrond phase, of course I loved normal D&D, I could play Elrond and Aragorn and Thorin, Oakenshield and all that. But now that I've kind of gotten older and I'm definitely settled into my Conan phase of life, I'm way more about, that kind of setting, Right. So I don't know, Stephen. Anyone else who has played Hyperborea? Is that high magic? Is that high fantasy? Because at least the way I run it, it's pretty much like Conan, sword and sandals. I mean, magic exists, obviously, and there are mage guilds and everything. There's actually more clerics in my game than mages. Just because, like, if you go to the city of Comorium, there's like a whole neighborhood of nothing but temples to various, old ones and gods and whatever. Xeranthnix, my arch nemesis, we meet again. Xeranthnix says this because there was a time when I was young and an asshole, and I've told you about it. All of you guys that have been on my channel for any period of time. And I had a bad temper, and I was not a very good friend. And we were playing D&D, and we got attacked by a bunch of halflings. And I threw a big baby fit. about it and acted like a big crybaby. And I was like the kind of player no one would ever want at their table ever under any circumstances. I was terrible. And my friend, who I've known for now decades, was the guy who was running the game. And I acted like a big crybaby. And for some reason, he forgave me. I don't know if I would have forgave me, but he did because um, I'll be honest. I'm not going to say his real name, but Zarathnix, whose birthday is one day from mine, is just a nicer person than I am. A more mature, just better person, I think. And I can say that. I can admit that. And I'll say another thing too. He was the guy I always played Magic and 40K with. And when he moved away, that's why I got rid of all the 40K shit. And I don't even play Magic anymore because, that was my homie, man. We would go to the comic shop together. We would play fantasy or whatever we play. Then we'd always go to like Red Lobster and get something to eat. And it was kind of like the weekend thing. And sometimes maybe my wife would go and sometimes not. You know, it's good times, man. So Zaranthnix, I miss you, homie. I miss you. I'm going to be at my mom's next month, but I know you live freaking forever away from her now, so whatever, but yeah, I miss you a lot. And you were talking about AD&D being, yeah. Yeah, we're talking about a role-playing game called Hyperborea, which is pretty much based on um, Lovecraft, Howard, and Clark Ashton Smith. And so it's kind of like a weird fantasy, sci-fi-ish thing. And me and a lot of the bros here, we absolutely just love it. Now, I will accept it may not be for everyone. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but boy, I like it. And one thing, and you kind of came in partway through this, Arachnix, is that in Hyperborea, the only playable race is human. Yeah, I appreciate that. I know you're busy. You got a lot going on up there, being a hermit out in the woods. And I hope that your lady friend is doing well. Um, and your dog. I saw the picture of you and your dog. Yeah, it's even. I don't know if you could call it Gamma World meets because it's more like I would say. Not that I'm trying to correct you, Stephen, but I'm going to because I would say it's like imagine if Call of Cthulhu met AD&D. So you're literally playing like Call of Cthulhu, Conan, but it's also a fantasy world. Oh, you're familiar with it? Then never mind. Yeah, it's been all the jam down here with me and the guys. We've been playing it for like 6 months. Everybody loves it. I love running it. It's just one of the first role playing games where the setting and everything is so interesting that I actually am enjoying, like, very much enjoying just being a part of it. The players fighting like cannibal Eskimos and we were talking about Stephen and I were talking about converting old school adventures that I know by heart, like the Lost City and Isle of Dread and stuff like that, converting them to use with Hyperborea and how you would do it. Like instead of in the Lost City, the people being the Selenians or whatever, I would make them Egyptians. Yes, they're orbiting around Saturn because one of I think it actually was Clark Ashton Smith's deity, the Sagua, that grabbed the continent off of Earth and put it there because the Sagwa is, known to have a relation with Saturn. Like before he came to Earth, he lived on Saturn. And they say some of his kind still live on Saturn. But that's the one, if you've ever read the Hyperborean Tales by Clark Ashton Smith, they get into that. Barrier Peaks would fit because shit. On Hyperborea, like we were talking about the other night, there are still some races on Hyperborea, like the Migo and the Crabmen and whatever, that are still capable of space flight. So this guy I'm going to call Painted until I put the decals on him. But this is a heavy fighter for Bautech. And obviously you can tell where the influence come from, because let's be honest, that's just a high-tech A10. But it does have rotors built into the wings so it can VTOL and hold position and stuff. It's got that big gun on the front, and then I'm getting ready to paint. It's got missiles on the bottom. I'm going to paint them red because, I want them to stand out. Yes, the story by Clark Ashton Smith that I'm talking about is called The Door to Saturn, and it's about a wizard who worships Tsagwa being chased through a door that teleports him to Saturn by a inquisitor who is a priest of Yonde, which is just another name for the black goat of the wood with 1,000 young. And they go to Saturn and they get into all kinds of whatever. They end up kind of hanging out because they're pretty much the only humans on Saturn. What's up, Dean Powell? How you doing? I hope all is good. See, Dean Powell is actually a member of a race that is represented in my Hyperborea game. Because old Dean over there is from Denmark, and my wife is Danish, and her character in Hyperborea is a Dane berserker who worships Thor and wears Thor's hammer around her neck and has all the knot work and shit tattooed all over and shit like that. Probably the most powerful character in the group, even though she's like a level or two behind some of them. But, like AD&D, and I've said before, thieves level fast. Meanwhile, the character that's getting like die 10 or die 12 hit die has a bonus to everything and berserks out and just murders everything. They level a little slower. Yeah, it looks like an A10. So when I saw it, I was like, I have to have that because your boy loves the A10. One of my fondest memories was lying on top of the Bradley in Iraq and watching A10 circling around. And it's so wild because in real life, they look like they're going slow. But they're doing like 300 miles an hour at least. But they're just kind of, Yeah. And Steve, that's why, because somebody was asking me why the racism in my game. And it's like, well, the Vikings within the last year, according to the history of Hyperborea, burned down the capital port and city of the Celtic nation of Gaul. And so your average Celt is not a huge fan of the Vikings right about now. They're not well liked in Cremoria because they burnt the shit out of that once or twice. So, there's a lot of, no one wants to see Viking ships in numbers rolling up from the coast, Like one Viking ship, if it's, rigged out and, it's a merchant ship, well, that's awesome. Because everyone loves amber and all the other stuff the Vikings trade. But if there's 20 Viking ships on the horizon, that is not good at all, right? Now, apparently the Vikings really don't mess with the Ixians in the north, and they don't really raid the Cimmerians. And that kind of makes sense since all the Cimmerian cities are pretty much inland on the plains. And the Cimmerians are, for the most part, like steppe warriors, like Cossacks and stuff. So I really don't think too many Vikings want to jump off their ship and march 50 miles inland across grassy plains to try and fight with a bunch of dudes on horseback. That's kind of not their gig. But yeah, I have so many adventures to run, whether I run Isle of Dread, whether I run the Lost City. I've got Port Greeley here, which is basically the Hyperborean mixed with Shadow over Innsmouth. Because there's a whole thing where like the town fathers of Comoria, the city fathers, hire somebody to go to Port Greeley to find out why the lobsters aren't showing up, right? Because apparently they import a lot of lobster from Port Greeley, and then when you get there, you find out that half of the people in Port Greeley have been hybridized with freaking deep ones. She's like, well, that sucks. And I also have the adventure Fane of the Reptile God. And that's just like a straight up Conan. You go in and there's giant snakes and serpent men and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Yeah, this guy's pretty good. See, I just paint the bombs underneath, and he's got that big chain gun on the front, and I'll just mount him up. He's a heavy anti-mech or anti-vehicle thing, and then this one, which is Draconis Combine, that's another heavy, but the Shylon are more like bombers than fighters, whereas this is definitely like a ground attack fighter. Come in and Zratniks, I've been getting like way into my BattleTech stuff, as always. Really, shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I have been playing BattleTech forever, and I'm probably never going to stop. Yeah. Do you own any of the Crabmen from Reaper Minis? They are sold out all the time. I put them on my wish list, and I tried like hell, Steven, to find a way to actually contact them, like directly, not go on the forums or any of that bullshit, to actually send an email to ask them, hey, like half of your CAV range is freaking unavailable, and half of your other stuff is unavailable. Like, go on there and try to buy carnivorous apes. Somehow or another, I got the last 4 apparently they ever made this month, which I love them. I love my little carnivorous apes, don't I? I mean, look at them. They're so carnivorous and apey. Plus, they have shiny bare butts. So, as they say, I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other apes can't deny. But yeah, regardless, yeah, it's like I'm wondering what they're doing. It's like I understand you got a Kickstarter going or something maybe, but at least keep the stuff on your freaking storefront. I mean, come on, Am I wrong? You guys tell me, but I just kind of expect if you're going to run a storefront selling miniatures, the miniatures you sell, keep them in stock, right? If they sell out, immediately call whoever. I mean, the Reaper Black are all made in Texas, so that should be super easy, right? Call whoever's in Texas and be like, well, print me like 10 more of these freaking things. What's up? It should not be that hard. And I say that as somebody who come from Warhammer, but the difference is when stuff goes out of production for Warhammer, they did it on purpose. And you and everybody knows. It's like they'll put something out, and when it is no longer available, it's on purpose. They could make more. They just have decided they're not going to, because of the because they're assholes, I guess, really. It's like they put out a great starter box. Everyone loves it. They stop making it. To me, that's the thing with Games Workshop. It seems like how they judge whether to make stuff or not is whether or not people actually want the thing that they're making. And the more their players want whatever it is they're making, the more likely they are to not make it. Right? It's like I'm not saying what I just said is actually true. Let's just say though it feels that way. It's like, you've got this great Imperial Guard starter set. It comes with like everything you could ever want. It's affordable for 40K. You always got to say for 40K. Everyone loves it. It's like in high demand. We're just not going to make it anymore. We're going to come out with this other box set, and everyone's going to hate it with a white hot passion. But if you want to play Imperial Guard, that's your choice, or buy them individually, which is going to cost you so much more. So yeah, there are times where I kind of believe Games Workshop is actively just effing their customers over, and maybe, I don't know, sitting in their shops in frickin' Nottingham laughing, just like, those idiots. I can't believe they fell for it. It's like, what? But that could be just good old fashioned. No, I stopped 3D printing. The reason is basically that I wasn't saving any money. I thought that by getting into 3D printing, I was going to save all this money. I saved none. Because all that ended up happening is I started 3D printing miniatures I couldn't get, but I kept buying miniatures that I thought I wouldn't buy. So yeah, I ended up with hundreds of Bautech figures that 3D printed, along with hundreds of Bautech figures that I bought. And eventually I just looked at it and I was like, well, I started doing the math. I'm like, I'm spending, hundreds of dollars on resin every month, and I'm still buying miniatures. And with the resin, I have to go through all the rigmarole of that because you don't want to get it on you. It'll destroy your kidneys and every other thing. It is poison. So I decided I'll just cut the thing that's really poisonous out of my life and just stick with the thing that's not really poisonous. And now I'm actually saving. Since I have stopped 3D printing, I've saved money, because yeah, I do buy the occasional Reaper or War Games Atlantic miniature, but I'm not, buying all the resins and everything like that. And now, I mean, don't get me wrong. When people are like, oh, 3D printing is so expensive because of all the material, I was using the highest quality resin. I was going way, way in like that. Yeah, that's the credit card I need. It's like when I go to swipe the credit card to buy a miniature, it like double checks to see if I have unpainted miniatures and then declines. Like, nah, you can't buy anymore. You've got too many. Which my sister-in-law, let me tell you, my sister-in-law, she really gets me. I told you guys, she bought me a shirt and it just has a bunch of miniatures on it. And then the lettering on it is, yes, I need every one of these miniatures. Like, yeah, that's my sister-in-law. But she games with us occasionally. She hasn't in a while because her and her future husband have been on like an entirely different schedule, and so they haven't been able to play with us when we play on Saturdays. But when everything gets done with, they'll start playing again probably. See, I'll see them on my way to Kentucky because they live a bit north of Hotlanta, which means on the way to see my mom, we're going to swing through where they are, hang out, have some dinner, BS around, play some games, then hit the road the next day to the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, hang out with my mom for however long, a week maybe, and then on the way back, stop off at the sister-in-law's and bullshit around, play Agricola and Splendor and all these board games we play. And so it'll be awesome. It'll be awesome. We won't even have to stay in a hotel. We'll just be, from one family member to another family member and then back. And honestly, that is how I like it. So really exciting to me. Maybe not to all of you guys, but to me, it's pretty exciting because my brother-in-law, Jeff, he is as big of a freaking nerd as I am. AD&D nerd. Except he's a comic book nerd too, which I'm not. He really loves like Marvel and DC and all of that sort of stuff. I'm not a super fan of any of that, but who cares? Because we both love, role-playing games and stuff. So when he and I get together, all we do is talk about hockey and role-playing games. Yes. Now, the good thing about Mordheim, though, Stephen, as I've told you, is you can play Frostgrave, which is, in my opinion, a better game because it fixes a couple of the huge glaring issues of Mordheim. And it's not just Mordheim. Dude, Mordheim, Necromunda, there was no reason, the games I mentioned, there's no reason they should have ever went out of print. Mordheim, Necromunda, Kill Team, freaking Man of War never should have went out of print. I don't give a shit. War Master probably never should have went out of print. There's still people like my buddy Holy Diver over at the Angry Tabletop Nerd. That dude is still painting War Master figures and playing that game. There's like a whole community of people, right? Blood Bowl went out of print. They had to bring it back though because the hardcore Blood Bowl fans were like, F you, Games Workshop. We will never stop playing. And they haven't, right? Of course, they recently nerfed the shit out of my team, so that's twice they've nerfed my ass. They destroyed the old world, created Age of Sigmar, decided that Dark Elves just didn't exist for like the longest time, then come out with some shitty little Armies of the City bullshit book where you could play like half of a Dark Elf army and then put the other half like with Chaos. And then they come out with the old world, and guess what? They're not supporting the Dark Elves. You can play them, but they don't support them. So you're not getting anything, right? And then to really kick me right in my nutsack, Blood Bowl, where I play the Dark Elves, I play the Nagaron Cowboys or the Nagaron Raiders, actually. They decided to nerf the shit out of the Dark Elf team because apparently having more than 2 blitzers is just way too OP. And it kind of was. But that's not the point. It's like, how do I keep picking, And I'll tell you, back in the day, Xeranthnix was around because, boy, we played. Back in the day, my local comic shop had tables designed specifically for Mordheim. And what I mean is they were like 3-dimensional. There were like canals running everywhere and bridges everywhere and buildings. Some of them were linked with sky bridges. And they had like a bunch of those, So, and then one day is like Games Workshop was like, yeah, we're not going to support this game, even though it is incredibly popular, literally with, the entire gaming base. But again, they did that with Man of War, and Man of War, in my opinion, is maybe the best Games Workshop game they ever made. Yep, got rid of Space Hulk, and then of course they got rid of freaking Battlefleet Gothic. Yeah, costume ruled, man. I still talk to Phil all the time. Yeah, Battlefleet Gothic. Which what did they actually need to do logistically to keep Battlefleet Gothic in production? Literally, they could have got by with just making sure the rule book was available and that they kept the plastic kits for the different cruisers available. And then they could have did everything else like, order direct or something. And there would be people still playing that game. 40K, Warhammer Quest, all. We could go on all day. You know it, I know it, we all know it. It's like I said, it's almost like the people who run Games Workshop cancel production of games specifically to be assholes. And they're like the only ones who do that. Like my Song of Ice and Fire armies that I have, right? You can still get them. It's like if you want to put together an Iron Islands Greyjoy army, you buy like a couple boxes of figures and you are done. You've got it, And then the hardest thing you got to think about is who's going to be your general and who's going to be your courtier. But that's literally about the only thing you got to worry about, right? But yeah. I think I am the guy before things changed for me that 100% went out, and I could show you this, bought the brand new Necromunda, and I mean the one that cost $300 just for the box, and then bought a shit ton of extra Necromunda terrain so I could fill a table full of terrain, right? Played it like 4 times and realized that the original stupid box that had the Goliath on the cover was a better game in every way. They overcomplicated Necromunda so much. It's like every time you roll, you got to freaking roll an ammo die and a misfire die and do all this stupid shit. And it's like, look, man, I don't need all that. I just need to know if I hit. And if I roll a 1 on my attack roll, then make me roll to see if there's a misfire or something. Catch you later, Zarathnick. I appreciate you dropping in, bro. So yeah, I mean, this new super expensive Necromunda, trash, absolute trash. Now, Blood Bowl's still good, but it didn't change that much other than them recently nerfing my beloved Dark Elves, which needed it, let's be honest. I mean, I'm not happy about it. I'm not over here singing in the street, yay, my Dark Elf team got nerfed. But yeah, if you got the 4 blitzers on the table and they started skilling up, you could easily get to a point where like the other teams just couldn't deal with you. You would just wreck other players so hard that they would just be crying. So yeah, while I'm not a super fan of them nerfing my team, I do understand the reasons they nerfed my team. Because I'm not Dick. I'm not going to whine and cry about, I never should have nerfed my team when I'm over here. Like my brother and I played, and he played multiple different teams, orcs, black orcs, humans, whatever. And every time he played against my starting Dark Elf team, I would crush him. And that's kind of when we knew that these guys might need a little tweakage, you know, because they're just a little bit too good, right? But yeah, that is my woe, is that for whatever reason, Games Workshop only nerfs the armies I play. And I don't pick them because they're powerful. I pick them because they're dark elves and they're full of sexy, big booby dark elf chicks. So I pick them because I'm a perv and I like looking at my hot ass dark elf, you know, Blood Bowl players with their huge breasts. That's why I pick them. And then it turns out they're really good too. So what are you going to do? Like, I got one up here. This is a female Dark Elf Blitzer. You can tell she's got the ball cradled. I don't know if she'll focus in too well, but see, nice rack, barely dressed. Got a face on her expressions like she's getting ready to kill somebody. I mean, that's just a cool figure. That's the kind of figure you want on your team. You know, she's wearing her Daisy Dukes or biker shorts or whatever you call that. Yeah, she's a good looking little elf chick. Throw her on the table, start kicking people's ass with her, right? Because I'll tell you why. Because I'm not some kind of soy bred guy that's going to sit here and pretend like I don't like beautiful women. That's why. I'm not that guy. I like beautiful women. And if I am going to play a game where there are female characters, like a war game, like Necromunda or something, I want the female characters that I'm playing to be beautiful. And I'm not the only one. Like, all the women I know feel the same damn way, you know? It's like no one wants to play some kind of freaking. I don't know of anyone who actually sits down at a video game and says, yeah, I'm going to play the ugliest freaking troll I can. I mean, and I don't mean unless they're actually playing a troll. I mean, they're going to play a human, right? But they want to play like some hideous thing. Yeah, you don't see that much. You know, like some woman sits down and says, I want to play a character that has half of her head shaven and a bunch of piercings and is also overweight. Oh my God, I can't wait to play that character. No, no, no. Not in role-playing games, not on computer games. No. You know, not one of the women I've ever gamed with in my many years of gaming has ever went out of their way to tell me, I want my character to be really ugly. No. You know what they all say? They want their character to be really pretty. And then in game, they try to use their looks to manipulate NPCs. I mean, the lady who plays the Amazonian, she does that shit all the time. She's always, because her character, she has decided there's no comeliness score. She just took it upon herself to say, my character is really beautiful and tall and like built because she's an Amazonian warrior, right? So she will use her physicality or sexuality or whatever to try to manipulate NPCs. And I'm like, yeah, makes sense. I mean, you know, even though she could probably just whip the NPC's ass, honestly, and take whatever she wants. But, you know, for her, it's more fun to try to be the seductive uh, sex kitten type, let me bat my eyes and have all these idiots running around, trying to do what I tell them to. Uh, she finds that to be a lot more enjoyable as a role playing experience. Uglies to the bone. Um, TES Oblivion. Is that the online Oblivion? Because my wife and I played it, and her character was really pretty, and my character was not really pretty, but because he was basically just a Nordman, um, and I become a vampire. At which point I wasn't really pretty because my skin was like that dead white bluish color, and my eyes glowed red. I was running around murdering people all the time, but um, her character was really pretty. She played a one of the Nordheimers or whatever, and made her character tall and beautiful and big breasted with like the blonde hair and braids. So yeah, see that's why I have the opinions I have. Is I've played not only a lot of tabletop role playing games, but I've played a lot of MMOs as well. And of course, I have this core group of players slash friends that I play with who I happen to play the game with a lot of women. And I am not stupid. I observe the stuff that the women like. And yeah, what they like is for their character to be beautiful, sexy, desirable. They like when men fall over themselves to try to, get with them or do whatever they want. And I think that maybe, guys, maybe that's just the natural order of things. Maybe men really are kind of simps, and if a woman, I've never given Blitzball a try. I've played tons and tons and tons of Blood Bowl, though. You're back. I was just discussing women and how uh, the ones I game with always want to play beautiful characters. That was the discussion. And I do game with a lot of women. Even when my own 60-year-old mom gamed with me before she moved, you can bet every one of her characters was like some kind of drop dead gorgeous Asian woman because for some reason, what my mom would do is she would go online to like the L5R pages and she would pick out like the prettiest Crane Clan woman she could find, like, the Asian chick with like the white hair. And she'd download that picture, and that would be the picture she used for her character. And then she'd name her character like Kamiko something or whatever. Uh, so if anyone's wondering where my brother got his weebness from, my mom, who had me read um, Shogun when I was very young. And I actually sat with her and watched the miniseries Shogun when I was just a kid, you know, because yeah, my mom has always been fascinated by Japanese culture, and that's cool, whatever. She also really liked the anime Frieren, and a couple of other anime Haas's showed her, but she's not a huge fan of Berserk, obviously. But yeah, welcome back, Janet. So, and I'm not trying to like lecture anybody. This is just an observation. If you game with a lot of women, this is just kind of the way it goes. And I'm not going to stop it. If the ladies want to play a bunch of hot chicks, I'm going to let them. Welcome to Earth Signal. Yeah. Janet comes from the anti Earth, which is apparently a theory that directly across from Earth on the other side of the sun is another Earth. But because our Earth and that Earth rotate around the sun at exactly the same speed and on exactly the same path, we never see that Earth. Now, obviously, people have proven that that's not likely, but it's still funny to think about, you know? I love thinking about the weird stuff like that. So, what I've done here, I'll give you guys a quick look, even though I've used my Tamiya panel liner and just lined all of the panels on the top. I'm going to leave the bottom alone of this Draconis Combine Shylone Heavy Fighter Bomber. And I'm going to put Draconis symbols on the wing. And then on the other wing, I'll put numbers. I've got a lot of transfers of small numbers I'll put on. And then it will get a gloss coat and it'll be done. Well, actually, I'm going to let this dry because the engines and everything, I'll probably do metallic. So, Janet, what's on your mind today? Tell me something good. Tell me something good. I actually like that song. I don't know who does it, but yeah, I like a lot of that old funk. People like you guys probably wouldn't look at me and guess like that's a guy who likes Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone. But guess what? This is a guy who really can get down to Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I like a lot of that soul music. I like the Blue Eyed Soul too. You know, throw a little Hall and Oates at me. I can deal with that. And then, of course, my favorite band to listen to when I'm painting, but I'm not live streaming, Stilly Dan. Stilly Dan, Can't Buy a Thrill. You know, you go back, Jack, do it again. We'll turn it around. And my favorite Stilly Dan song is Deacon Blue. But I'm also a huge fan of my old school Hey 19. You know what? Stilly Dan has so many hits. I'm not even going to try and sit here and count them down. I mean, it's like, you know, it'd be ridiculous. So these guys, I'm going to primer and then I'm going to paint them like a muddy bluish color. I'm going to try to make these living nightmares for my player character group. And they are a living nightmare for me in real life, you know, like how Max Lau will tell you about how, you know, insects, he's like an arachnophobe or whatever. Um, Catfish for me, big catfish, not little ones, big ones. And, you know, what can you say? Are you? Is that supposed to be ELO? If it's ELO, then guess what? I'm with you with some ELO. I like ELO. And what was the other band that did like Red Skies at Night and Saved by Zero? The Fix. Yeah, I dig all that too. But Janet, is Bruce working? Because if he wasn't working, I would be like asking him to come hang out. Which, here, let me. It's been like an hour since I've done this. I'm going to put the link back in just in case, but yeah, my boy Brucey. Bruce. And then the whole fact that we were talking about ELO reminded me of Bruce mainly because of the song "Don't Let Me Down." Because that part of the song where they're like, "Don't let me down," it sounds, I swear to God, like they're saying, "Bruce, don't let me down. No, no, no." Every time I hear that, I'm like, are they saying Bruce? Like, and who is Bruce? And why do they think Bruce is going to let them down? I don't know. And they're probably in reality not actually saying Bruce, but it doesn't matter because, that's what I hear. I hear, "Don't let me down, Bruce. You got me shaking like a leaf on a tree." Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite ELO songs, I think, is called, well, I know it's one of my favorite songs, not I think it's a favorite song by ELO, is "Yours Truly," 2095 or something like that. And the whole song's about the guy is in the future and he's dating an android. And like, I guess he's having some mixed feelings about it. Scoring him some weed, maybe, right? Probably. Bruce is out wherever they're touring trying to get him some weed and shit. And they're saying, "Don't let us down, Bruce." See, I grew up in a house where my pops loved classic and progressive rock, and my mom listened to bluegrass and gospel all the time. Even though she went to concerts with my pops, and she saw, like, Pink Floyd and all that live, but around the house for her it would be like, bluegrass, country, like Alison Klaus or whatever would be right up her alley, right? So I was exposed to, between the two of them, it's Gruce. See, I don't even know what a Gruce is. It's a good song though. So yeah, my pops would be jamming out. He'd be outside working on something, because that's what he did a lot of. And he would be jamming like Sabbath, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, all that kind of thing. And then I'd go in the house and it would be like foot, footprints in the snow, and, you know, that kind of, like, "Oh brother, where art thou" type music. And so I kind of grew up loving both. If that, I mean, that may not make a lot of sense, but that's what happened. I grew up where I loved Patsy Cline and Hank Williams and Conway Twitty and all that. But at the same time, I'm like a Pink Floyd super fan. Uh, yeah, my grandfather on my paternal side was actually in a gospel band, the Hallelujahs, and they actually played at churches and stuff like that. Went around, and now when I say my paternal side, I mean my biological father, uh, who split with my mom. Well, she split with him actually when I was like 5. So, you know, uh, but I will tell you something about my grandfather, who got along with me awesome, even though my bio and I never got along at all. That guy, if it had strings on it, he could play it. Whereas I never got any musical talent at all. But my grandfather, it was Dio before Rainbow. Wow, I didn't know that. I'm pretty basic when it comes to Dio. I know, like, Man on a Silver Mountain, stuff like that. And then, of course, I know, his Holy Diver album, obviously. Last in Line, which I don't know if that was him solo or him with Sabbath. The thing is, and I not to be an asshole here, is the Sabbath I grew up on was like Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Black Sabbath, you know, Evil Woman, that sort of thing. That by the time Ronnie James Dio got brought into the fold to be the lead singer of Sabbath, I was already hardwired to expect Ozzy. So even though Ronnie James Dio is an amazing lyricist, you know, singer, vocalist, I should say, he wasn't Ozzy. And that was kind of a problem. But then when I heard his like solo stuff, you know, Man on a Silver Mountain and stuff like that, I was like, damn, this guy is good. But I just never could get into his Sabbath stuff because of my ingrained biases, let's say. He was really good in Pick of Destiny, you know, during the Kickapoo scene. Like, and the dude was like 70 or 80 when he filmed that, and he was still uh Jeepers Creepers is see, when I think Jeepers Creepers, I think we're either talking about the Scary Movie where the ancient Aztec god thing is like ripping people apart, or I think Susie and the Banshees, you know, Peekaboo. Because there's a part in I think Peekaboo where she's like Jeepers Creepers, where you get those peepers, you know, Peekaboo. Now, for some reason, my homie Bear does not like Susie and the Banshees. I don't get it. I thought it was an automatic. If you were Gen X, you probably liked Susie, but he didn't. And I'm like, well, okay then. But Cities in Dust and all that, I thought were great songs. Kiss Them For Me. And it goes on and on and on. It's heaven and hell. Yeah, that was a good one. No, not at all, Janet. I do give some away because I end up with more miniatures than I actually want to have in the house. So there are a few people that have sent me their address on Discord, and I've sent them uh, boxes about this big, just full, just packed full of 3D prints and just miniatures I don't want. Um, but like my Bautech figures, no. The only time I give a Bautech figure away is if it's a 3D print. Then I'll throw it in the box. A lot of my 3D prints go in the box, but then a lot of just miniatures that I've bought and I know I'm never going to use, they go in the box too. And most of them that go in the box aren't painted, you know. That's why they're going in the box because I've owned them for like umpteen years and they somehow never got painted. That means I have this weird thing where if I've owned something for years and years and years and I've never actually painted it or something, may as well just give it away because obviously I'm just not that into it, you know. So there's that. Like I don't know. I think I've sent Bruce some stuff. I know I've sent Shadow some stuff. I sent Cold Iron Skillet some stuff. I actually can't remember who all I've sent stuff to be brutally honest. Father Aaron, I sent him some stuff, which was painful because Canada hates the U.S. postage system. I mean, The one thing though I tell people when it comes to me sending miniatures is temper your expectations because you don't know what I'm sending you. And I don't mean like I'm sending garbage. I mean that it might be a mix of 3D printed Baltec figures, Gripping Beast plastic Vikings. There could be some Fireforged Normans. I mean, just, what the hell ever I have laying around that I know I'm never going to paint or use. That's what goes in the box. And then I take it to the UPS store and I give them like 15 bucks and they ship it away. Ship it away. Yep. Now, some people who are special to me because they've done me like solids, I will do even more for them. Like Angry Tabletop Nerd, he is an actual bro, right? So I've sent him uh, the complete Baltec box with like all the miniatures in it and everything. I sent him a copy of the Oathmark rule book. I sent him a copy of Conan 2-20, stuff like that. Cold Iron Skillet, I sent him the Hyperborea bundle. But I mean, I owe him because he's the one that makes all of my thumbnails. And I think he might be making Holy Divers thumbnails too. So that's good because, like I said, Holy Diver is my bro. And if he needs thumbnails and, Cold Iron Skillet's willing to do them, then, I mean, awesome, you know. Yeah, I sent Shadow the Baltec game too because I was hoping him and Jackie would like it. And I don't think you could ever get Jackie to play it. But I think Jackie did swear his fealty to House Merrick, so that's good enough. You know. The thing I dislike the most about the whole giving things to people, though, is there's so many people in Canada that I want to give stuff to, and Canada just does not want me to do it. So I'm sorry, my Canadian brothers and sisters. Your postal service is why I don't send you more stuff up there. Oh, Plant Caravan, of course. I mean, like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, every song on it was great. Black Sabbath, the first one, I mean, NIB, Paranoid, like, again, every song was great, you know? And that's why I'm saying I couldn't get into Dio as the lead singer of Sabbath because I had hardwired my brain to want to hear, 18-year-old Ozzy, right? So that is not Dio's problem. That is my problem. I did that and whatever, right? But like, again, Dio's solo stuff, like it a lot, all of it, you know? And Heaven and Hell, if that's a Dio Sabbath song, well, guess what? I like that one a lot too. I like that one. I liked Last in Line. I thought that one was good. So there are some Dio songs that there are some Dio Sabbath stuff that I can get down with, you know. But yeah, that one, I'm a man, and you'll never stop me, honey. Yeah, I'm a wheel, whatever. I don't know the words honestly, but so I figured this is a part of dungeon dressing, and it's basically just a hearth with a pot of some kind of stew or something cooking on it. I know, Coco. If you guys get anything changed about your entire freaking government system, the one I want you to get changed is how your postal shit works because it's like And I know I've ranted about this more than enough, so I won't just keep going, but God, it's so frustrating when, like, the thing that frustrated me the most is I wanted to send a role playing game to Aaron, Father Aaron. And it was just like, okay, you can send this book, but it's going to cost you like $60. And I'm just like, why? You know, why does it cost that much? Who knows? Canada is being disarmed now. I hope not, because can you imagine living in the upper Yukon, Saskatchewan, North Alberta, or whatever, and not being able to carry a gun? I mean, you will get your guts stomped out by a moose, or a big bear will turn you into a packed lunch. Canada, like Alaska, and I know Alaska. I don't know Canada except for Windsor, but Canada I know a little bit because I assume it's like Alaska, right? And in Alaska, you damn well better have a gun, even in town. And not just for animals. I mean, look at the crime stats for Alaska. It's a freaking jungle up there, right? Like, there's probably more serial killers in Alaska than any other state in the union. Yeah, big old grizz, brown bear, or heaven help you if you run into one of those hybrid polar grizz bears, will just turn you into a packed lunch, a Happy Meal. That'll just be the end of you. And allowing somebody to carry a single shot rifle, okay, you better get him the first time because there won't be a second time by the time you try to reload that thing or whatever, right? And I know I always talk about how I carry my Glock, or I've got my Hellcat, my Smith & Wesson. Up there, I wouldn't dream of carrying a 9mm out into the woods hunting or fishing. Minimum 357 Magnum. Minimum. Hollow Shroud Gaming. Yes, it is. I agree with everything that you're saying here. And I think you and I might have just become best friends. In Alaska, yeah, the people are probably worse than the animals. Alaska has so many assaults, batteries, grapages. I mean, and what's wild is you might have one state trooper and he'll be in charge of like a quarter of the state. So, but yes, getting back to, we were just talking about, I will mention this to you if you haven't seen the video I made about it. And I'm going to make more detailed videos about this, how easy it would be to convert Olive Dread, Lost City, Barrier Peak. I mean, there are so many old school TSR modules that with barely a change, they would fit on Hyperborea seamlessly, really. And like we were saying, the Lost City, which I think is what, B4, all you got to do is make the Selenians or whatever they are that live in the pyramid, make them Egyptians or Aztecs that somehow got shot through time and space and ended up on Hyperborea, and then eventually their little temple got buried because they're all addicted to some kind of lotus. And then you really don't got to change anything unless there's, goblins or hobgoblins or something. They got to go, but you can replace, there's so many things you could replace them with and just call it a day. And now that I think about it, because the pyramid in Lost City or whatever it's called is a giant step pyramid, I might actually go with like Incas, Aztecs, Mayans, whatever, instead of Egyptians, right? So you run into all these, and maybe they're, if you want to look it up, you can find, an appropriate trio of Aztec gods, or you can just have them worshiping some of the great old ones. And then on top of that, Hollow Shroud, think about, I don't know if you've ever played through the basic, expert, module, Isle of Dread, but it's basically like the old King Kong movie where there's a village surrounded by a gigantic wall to keep all the shit out. And by shit, I mean giant apes and dinosaurs and stuff. And you end up landing there after a wreck, and your ship's all jacked up. So you decide to do stuff while the ship's being repaired. You could put that tiny speck of an island, Skull Island or whatever, literally in any clear sea hex in the Hyperborean continent on the Atlas. It could be anywhere, you know, and it would just work out beautifully, you know. The players set off from a major port, Comorium or whatever, and get hit by a storm and wash up on this freaking island with their ship so wrecked it's going to take weeks to repair, right? And instead of whatever the people are on the island, you could make them remnants of Maori, any other Polynesian people you want, or I was actually leaning towards like Zulu or something like that. And then the shamans of the tribe would be necromancers, because in the module they raised their dead tribe members to actually continue working in the fields and on the wall. So they're necromancers, but maybe not necessarily super evil necromancers, maybe more neutral aligned necromancers or something like that. And the other thing I was thinking of, and again, this will all be in the more detailed video I make, would be I would probably replace the fluke-tailed creatures, you know, that are at the center of the island with Mi-Go. Just because that would be cool, you know. The adventurers go through all this stuff and they finally find their way up the top of this giant mountain into this ancient temple, and it turns out it's freaking fungus Mi-Go up in there mining or something. What do I say? I say that's not a bad idea. Or the island could be in the middle of the giant kind of river that separates the inner sea from the outer sea on Hyperborea. So it could be a thing where the chances of ever finding it twice would be so difficult, based on the fact that the water is just sweeping around so fast that it's like you enter that river up here and end up on the island down here. And then when you go to leave, it carries you all the way over here. So it would be next to impossible to ever actually know where it is. You know, I mean, so just the setting of Hyperborea takes care of some of that, you know, just by saying, yeah, you're never going to be able to find it. But I mean, either way, you know, I'm getting there. Is it dinner time? Yeah. All right, guys, it's been about 2 hours of me jabbering around about Hyperborea. Thank you all for dropping in and saying hi. I do request, so if there's anything specific you want me to talk about, comment. I do read all the comments, which aren't actually that many. Actually, I got quite a few of them the other day, like 6. So, and also, Stephen, it would give me an excuse to use these creepy looking bastards in a game. For those of you who don't know, this is a Mi-Go. They're kind of a weird fungus type alien that can fly through space, and they always come to Earth or wherever because they're always trying to mine. They need minerals that only exist on Earth to actually keep their empire going. You could put the Dwellers of the Forbidden City on the Isle of Dread. And for Dwellers of the Forbidden City, is that the one where it's in a jungle? And so the adventure is kind of like Indiana Jones, like, because there's 2 cities where you either go into the Step Pyramid, Or there's one where it's in the middle of the jungle and the city's been like overrun and overgrown and all that. The only thing I think Steve and I came up with is the super friendly, nice squirrel monkey people on the Isle of Dread are immediately being replaced by some kind of flesh eating apes because we can't have anything good. It's Hyperborea. And of course, we leave that tentacled bastard at the bottom of the pyramid right where he is because that could easily be explained away as some kind of son of one of the great old ones, Zygox or whatever his name is. Whatever. I always forget his name, but you guys know who I'm talking about. That said, though, I'm going to go eat dinner with the wife, watch some TV, and relax. Tomorrow will be Double D stream, so I don't know if I'll stream at all, but no cat people. But let's throw some Denisovians, some freaking Neanderthals. Hey, some Vendo, like from 13th Warrior, who were just Denisovians dressed in bear costumes, right? You could totally do that. That would be cool.